Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the school committee meeting on Thursday, May 9th. It's a full house tonight. I'm Christine Boyle. I'm sitting in. I'm the most senior member, so I get to sit in and start this meeting before we have our reorganization. Before we go further, I'd like to welcome our newest member to the board, Joe Marias. Welcome aboard. Glad to have you, and we look forward to working with you.
Thank you. Welcome, Joe.
Welcome, Joe.
Thanks.
So our first order of business will be the reorganization of the school committee. And to that point, we need to elect a chairperson. So, do I have a motion from anyone to nominate a chairperson? Scott?
Yeah, I would like to make a motion for Robbie Lanzetta. I think he's done a tremendous job as certainly taking on a variety of projects throughout his tenure here on the school committee, and I'd like to nominate him for chair.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so why don't we take a vote from the school committee to appoint Robbie as chair of the school committee for this coming year? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in favor, 6. I don't know if I get to vote. Do I get to vote as a chair?
You do. Yeah.
Okay, so 6 in favor. Okay, the second order of business would be to elect a vice chairperson. And do I have a motion from anyone to elect a vice chairperson?
Actually, I believe, Christine, that the normal order would be to have the chair.
Switch?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, great.
Okay.
There you go.
So we can.
Oh, here's my.
These are good chairs.
Try to minimize that as best we can.
Thank you, Christine. Thank you to all the members. I appreciate your vote of confidence. Look forward to working hard and being a very good chairman. Got a lot of people here tonight, a lot on the agenda, so we'll get right to it. The next point of our reorganization is the election of a vice chairman. Do we have a motion for vice chair? Patrick?
I'd like the motion that we elect Scott Harrison as our vice chair, please.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second from Mike. Any others? All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous in favor? Scott, congratulations, Vice Chair.
Thank you.
The next is the election of secretary. Historically, since I've been on the committee, Superintendent Tremblay has done a wonderful job as our secretary.
Thank you.
Taking copious notes. Do we have a motion for secretary?
I would love to motion Bob to be our secretary.
I would love to second that.
I'd love to see if anybody else would like to do it.
All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
Well, thank you.
Okay, job well done. You get to do it again.
Erica, stick with me.
Okay, let me just get my packet open here. What is this?
Just correspondence.
Thanks, Mike. Tonight's meeting is being broadcast through Milford TV and Media, the Milford Daily News, Town Crier and the Patch are in attendance. Anyone wishing to make a video or audio recording should let myself or one of the other committee members know. Next up on our agenda is the recognition of the Milford Public Schools recipients of the Boston Globe Scholastic Art Awards. And we have many of those teachers and students here tonight.
Yes.
Do we have, let's see, a listing. There we are.
There we go. I thought we was having the students come up and talk about their
Okay.
artwork. So,
Yeah, and we do have their artwork on display here behind me. If we can get a shot of that, it looks awesome. Very, very well done, as is typical from our art department and our students. Here tonight for the teachers, we have the Milford High School art teachers, Adrian Delaney and Caroline Tebbets, and the middle school East teacher, Patricia Solomon. And what we would like to do is we'd like to acknowledge the students on the job very well done. You've made your community and your school very proud. And we do have some things, Bob, we
We
want
do,
to
yeah.
give them. Anything you'd like to add? Or
Sure, thank you. And having had the opportunity with Mr. Walsh earlier to be at the National Art Honor Society induction, to all the students, to the staff, families who are here, congratulations to all of you. Terrific job, well done. to hear the music being played by our music department, and to see the student artwork was outstanding. So I thought tonight we could have an opportunity to have our award-winning artists maybe speak about their pieces briefly, just tell us a few things. Not everybody in the room, present company included, myself, understands necessarily how we arrived at, the mediums that you used and how you chose them. So maybe, Adrian, if I could turn it over to you, maybe introduce the students to come up and speak about their pieces. And then we do have something for all the students that are named here. We can introduce them, certainly. Yeah, if you want to just come up, maybe wherever you think, maybe the podium area here. We don't want anyone to trip coming up, so I would just ask that as students come up to talk about your artwork, that you'd follow, Mrs. Delaney just walked, just by Mr. Walsh over there, that we just walk by here. That way you don't trip over the wires along the way. Thanks so much. If you don't mind just maybe calling up a student to come in and just speak about the artwork in whatever order you think is best.
I'd first like to introduce Adeline Theobald. She won a gold key for her submission, and if you could come on up. This is Addie's work.
Can you just tell us a little bit about it?
Well, Miss Delaney gave us a skeleton in the middle of class, and she said, draw whatever you see, and she wasn't really too keen on realism. She was kind of just all really working with the brush and seeing how it kind of takes on a life of its own. And that's what I did. And I kind of put things where they didn't belong, and it just went from there.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Wonderful.
Great job. We have something else too from the Milford School here.
Here you go.
And I'd like to introduce Veronica Lynch. She won a silver key for her self-portrait still life that's here. If you could come on up.
Mine was also drawn from something that was put in front of me, except mine's more of a traditional still life. Draw what you see. It's kind of like the dreaded still life that all portfolios need to apply to college. So with this one, the assignment was to do a still life self-portrait. So I kind of just got a collection of things that are meaningful to me as a person, and arranged them and drew them. So that's my piece.
Very nice.
All right, I'd like to call up Allie Jakanowski. She has a paper form that she created in Mrs. Tevitt's class, and she got an honorable mention for her work.
I made this out of newspaper, and at the bottom it's colored newspaper, and at the top it's black and white. And then Miss Tebbets just gave us, she said like what to make. She said like make your own form, so I just made this one.
Actually, Allie.
Great job.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
I'd like to call up Julia Tui. She received an honorable mention for her piece.
Hi. This is my piece. I actually had the same project. I was in the same class as Addie. As you can see, they kind of turned out very different. But basically, we had to come up with an abstract image with ink first, and my first try was actually really, really bad. It was just a big black page, and I couldn't really work with it, so I tried again. And when I originally saw it, it looked like a heart to me, and then we were told to incorporate a skeleton. It just kind of seemed right to put ribs on it. So that's my piece. Yes.
All right, I'd like to introduce Mary Scamato. She actually has her dancer piece, which I'll definitely hold up. She had it framed, and so we weren't able to hang it, so I'll definitely hold it as she's kind of explaining it. It's a beautiful piece. so you can all see it.
It actually started out as a figure study because the figure is always something that I've struggled with. And when the dancer itself turned out pretty nice, I ended up using watercolor and ink to draw it, and then I thought of ballet and dance in general, and it's simultaneously very structured and very expressive. So the dancer itself is the structuredness, and the ink splatter is the expressiveness. There you go.
Congratulations.
All right, I'd like to introduce Laura Casa for her honorable mention piece. Can you come on up?
Hello, this is my piece. As I was applying for colleges this fall, I had developed my own portfolio like Veronica did. So one of the requirements is usually to make about 5 observational pieces, which are drawings from life. So I set up this study of a can, because it's something I encounter every day, and I thought, how can I make this interesting? It's just a can. And I was doing thumbnails for days, and then I realized, what's more interesting than seeing something that close up that you're never going to see that detail? So after a lot of different tries, this is what I came up with.
I'd also just like to mention 2 other students that received honorable mention. A student who's a freshman, her name is Jasenia Calazo Chamora, and she was unable to attend, but I'd like to have her recognized, as well as Raven Clerico, who is a junior who was unable to make it, and she had created Raven had created a paper form, and Jasenia has her flower that's up on the board. Additionally, Jordan Zona, who did a really amazing piece on the end of her brother, using kind of this fishbowl style that she's so great at, and it was also honored in the Boston Scholastic competition.
Thank you so much. Excellent. Thank you so much. Job well done. Excellent. Yeah.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right. We're not done just yet.
Not done yet, huh?
Right with the middle school students.
That's right.
Oh.
I have to say, when I get nervous, I forget things. That's okay. This is Patty Solomon. She's our amazing art teacher at Middle School East.
No problem. I've been left behind. Hello, everybody. My name is Patty Solomon. I'm the art teacher at Middle School East. And I had the absolute pleasure of entering a couple pieces into the Boston Globe Scholastic Arts Award. And this is the first year I've done this because this is my first year teaching in 8th grade, and they only go from 8 to 12. So it was very exciting to have a Gold Key winner and an honorable mention. And our Gold Key winner, I'd like to call up Colton Luke. And Colton did an intaglio dry point print, which he's going to explain to you, of the rose.
Okay, so basically, she just showed up with this idea for this and told us all about it, and we drew our pictures, and a lot of people just sort of messed with it, but I ended up with a pretty good picture. And then when I went to actually sketch it, I wasn't sure how it would turn out because it just looked like a scraped piece of plastic. And then when we were done, we ended up with this. It's pretty good.
Maybe talk about the process a little bit, okay?
Okay, so you draw the picture, then you have to go over it in Sharpie so that way you can actually see it when you go to sketch it out. And then you have to take the needle and scrape out the image onto the plastic, then you have to make sure all the stuff that you scraped off isn't on anymore, so you don't mess up the image that you just made, followed by putting on all the ink, cleaning it off, making sure it looks all pretty, and then actually putting it in the press, so that way you get the image on the paper.
Okay. And I would like Kelsey Anderson to come up. She received an honorable mention for her Chihuly watercolor of the pink flower.
I read this because for a few weeks we were studying the style of Dale Chihuly, who worked with blowing glass and different colors. He used a lot of organic shapes, so I figured in the watercolor I started off with like just squiggles in a circle, and then I figured, oh, it looks like a flower. So I put the leaves, and I thought the background looked boring, so I was like, oh, I'll put some grass-looking stuff in the background. And we were working with fading with watercolor, so I figured it worked out well for an organic shape.
Congratulations, well done.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary. Any other artists?
All right, we're good.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you all, teachers and students, so much for coming in. And we're lucky we get to enjoy this a little bit longer. And there certainly was no rush there. We had thought Mrs. Delaney had gotten everybody, so I'm glad everyone was recognized.
Well, before they leave, actually, my wife, Alyssa Holland, is one of Colton's teachers in the 8th grade, and so she asked me to say something embarrassing while I was up here. I hope this will suffice. I don't really have anything too much more embarrassing to say, but everyone's artwork is just lovely, and each year, the artwork that are brought before us, it amazes me that we have so many students that are acknowledged for gold keys year after year, and you're all so terribly impressive, and thank you so much for coming tonight.
Anyone else? Okay, the next item on our agenda is the approval of minutes. We have one set of regular session minutes to approve from April 25th. Has everyone had a chance to review those? Okay, do we have a motion to accept? Mike, second from Scott, all in favor? Opposed, unanimous in favor? I also want,
Just one point of order. Because this is Joe's first meeting, we're very happy to have him here. We got to make sure Joe actually has to abstain from this one. Because he wasn't there for the meeting. Just want to make
we
sure.
have 5 in favor, 1 abstention. Thank you, Scott, right? I also want to announce that the previously approved executive session minutes from January 3rd, January 17th, and March 21st of 2013 are now available. They are no longer exempt from disclosure. The next item on our agenda is announcements, correspondence, distributions. Do any members have anything? Yes, Scott?
Just one announcement, really just a recognition piece. Obviously, tremendous talent, as we always have here in Milford, with our artists that were coming to visit us this evening, but also want to recognize, within the past couple weeks, we actually had an opportunity to have the all-school orchestra vertical concert. Had an opportunity to attend that, and I continue to be impressed with the level of talent and dedication that, the teachers, the educators, those that do all the lessons, and certainly all of our students. Just what a wonderful concert. The level of music, and they started from the 3rd graders who showed up, and I think were playing almost out of shaking because they were so nervous, but they handled it like true pros, and then they just continued to build right up through the high school. And I think by the time it was all said and done, they had, I think they said close to 200 students that were involved in it. So it continues to impress me of the talent that's there. So I want to make sure I recognize them. What a beautiful job they did.
Great. Any other members?
Mr. Chairman?
Bob?
I have a few, excuse me, I have a few announcements. First, this is our correspondence. This is from Ed Thompson, asking that I share this with the school committee. And so Ed writes, Bob, I want to convey to you and the committee my sincere appreciation to Chairman Pat Holland for his expertise, knowledge, accessibility, and comprehensive information he shared with me about the work on the school committee over the past year in the many interviews and phone calls. He was excellent every step of the way and never hesitated to share information for the good of parents and other residents. I know his openness was beneficial to all. I hope the new chairman is as accessible. So, from Ed Thompson. Yeah, and believe me, Ed doesn't always have a lot of nice things to say.
I agree with that.
Nice job.
So
Good job, Patrick.
that was a surprise for you, Mr. Holland.
I'm going to do something that's going to make him upset next week.
I also, in light of last night's very successful presentation to the Milford Finance Committee on the school budget, Don Quattrocchio has emailed me earlier today asking that I publicly make a comment thanking Kathy Perry for all of your efforts. So Kathy, thank you as the members who attended last night, and from the follow-up emails you saw from me. It was a well-crafted budget, a lot of work in defending that budget, and sincere thanks to the Milford Finance Committee for supporting our school budget for the fiscal 14 year. Of course, we'll have to see what happens at town meeting, but again, it was a great step for us and for the future of the Milford schools. As far as distributions, I apologize, I have all these. One is a handout tonight that Mrs. Bonnock will be presenting the handbook tonight at the request of Mr. Tempesta, the handbook and school improvement plan, and she'll explain what this distribution is. It's colored in green when she comes up to us. And also, the school committee at the last meeting had requested as a follow-up to the policy, and I'll speak to this point when we get to the policy on the use of facilities, but you'll see a description for a site manager for the turf field included as your table seat. That's all I have for distributions.
Very good. Okay, next item on our agenda is invitation to speak. Anyone here to speak? Seeing no one? We will move on to the school improvement plan and handbooks. And do we decide who's going first?
Nancy, Stacy Middle School. You do middle school, Stacy Middle School is combined.
Yeah.
Nancy, Angelini, okay, and we'll look at the school, the school improvement plan and handbook.
We're just going to move a chair up, is that okay?
Absolutely, make yourself comfortable.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, welcome.
Good evening.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you for having us. I would like to introduce Diane Reardon. She is the president of the 8th grade class. When you start talking about student council responsibility, she, as well as another student, sat on the school council this year, which was really actually a lot of fun working with students in that way again. Also, we have to my right Mrs. Connie Burns, who is assistant to the principal, who I must say I've taken opportunity to commend her for all of the work that she's done this year to support the merge between the middle schools. I would say her dedication, her humor, and her ability to work with me, as I am very fast and woo-hoo sometimes, so I just wanted to publicly commend her for really being a wonderful support, and I feel like it's important that I also give a shout out to my other assistant principals. Any good leader knows that the reason you lead well is because you have most excellent soldiers beneath you, working with you, not for you. And I would like to commend every single person in the middle school for doing that. The ability for them to step up and show leadership, or I should say share leadership, is why I feel like the middle level is being so successful. So I can't commend the people I work with enough. It's a joy to watch them work. And I always tell them, and I mean this from the bottom of my heart, I would be a better teacher for watching them teach. So I would like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to say that.
Don't be overwhelmed by all my books. I'm not going to be here a long time tonight.
For the members of the committee, too, I failed to tell you that at your place in the blue, if you didn't see it already, is a, if you already found them all? Okay, good.
What you have in front of you, again, is from my administrative secretary, Carol Now, who is very, very good at putting packages together that are very orderly and poignant. If you look to the left, you have school improvement plans. The top one is the proposal that we as a council are going to be making for the 2013-2014 school year. Underneath that, you have updates to the Stacy Middle School handbook, the 212-213. Below that, you have updates to the 212-213 Middle School East handbook. Those are continuing to make progress as we move through the year. So if you look to the far right of each of those documents, you'll see things in the far right-hand column that will show you the updates and progress that are being made at the current school improvement plans. So I am going to focus on a number of items within the proposal for next year's school improvement plan. After that, Mrs. Burns and Ms. Reardon are going to present the handbook changes to you. If you have any questions as I move along, just let me know. I can assure you I'm not going to cover all this as it's pretty lengthy. So I'm going to highlight a couple of things, and then if you have questions, please feel free, okay? I think one of the biggest things that I'd like to highlight is the work with the school council wasn't an easy one, because what we did was merge two improvement plans into one. So what we did is, instead of doing separate documents for the school council and the school improvement plan, we've merged the 5 through 8 document, okay? And we felt that that would be appropriate for the transitions that will be happening in the upcoming years. And I think it also is going to help with transitions from grade level to grade level, okay? Probably the most important thing I would like to highlight is the movement. If you look at the goals up on the top, as a middle school community, we're trying to adopt the entire SMART goal process. So you'll see we have some lofty numeric goals that are built into the statements on top of each page. I would like to commend the curriculum team leaders for working with the school council on that as well. So the first one is a comprehensive literacy approach within the daily instruction based on individuals' content areas. So when we talk about the new framework, the biggest push is for literacy, and each content area is going to be responsible for supporting a literacy within the content. And we have a number of ways that the teachers can specifically choose to do that within each content area. Another big thing that we're doing, and I want to commend the CTL at the high school and the English department, Ms. Allegrezza, is we spoke at length at a curriculum council meeting with Mr. Tremblay about making sure that what the middle is doing is matching what the high school is doing. So we are picking up, as we continue to work with the Big Six research, we also continue to do the 6 traits of writing, and we also are embedding construct English on the recommendation of the high school CTL within the middle school level. So again, we're trying to work towards a seamless transition from each grade level. As always, we're going to continue to do MCAS analysis, and in cooperation with the EL director, we are going to be doing a review of the new access data as well, making that available to each of the 9 teams at Stacy Middle School and to each of the departments within the Middle School East building as well. Another big issue that we're going to address to support the district strategic plan is we are supporting the concept of Project Lead the Way. If you take a look, each department or each content area or team is going to be asked to allow students to create, design, build, discover, collaborate, and solve problems across content-related areas. So we are asking for that type of project to be embedded within curriculum for next year. And again, that would be supporting the district strategic plan as well.
And Nancy, if you would just very briefly, a couple of bullet points of what is Project Lead the Way? How does it, just for the benefit of
A lot of that is connected to the STEM initiative and people just, excuse me, doing a lot of problem solving, thinking, higher order learning, collaboration, teamwork to solve a problem. And using the content area that the teacher would be in. So it wouldn't be just math or science. We're trying to interdisciplinary connect all the content areas to make it more purposeful and applicable for students and more authentic.
Thank you.
Another thing that we are trying to push as well is a wellness interactive assembly using community members, as well as making wellness opportunities for the staff before or after school. The Human Performance Laboratory at Stacy Middle School is accessible to teachers after school for their wellness initiatives, and we have already begun to create one at Middle School East, so that will also is actually already up and running. I would like to commend the students of Middle School East. You know, students love to help. And I said, oh, am I going to move all this equipment? And all of a sudden, all these kids are like, I'll do it. So before you know it, we had the entire room moved across the hallway and reworked. So that was very exciting. So that is up and running at Middle School East as well. So both facilities at the middle level have a functioning performance laboratory for wellness, not only for students but for staff.
Nancy, when do students get access to those?
At Middle School East, through the physical education classes, and then over at Stacy Middle School, the health teachers are actively using that in one of their units when they talk about body systems. Each student goes through anywhere between 3 and 5 actual activities where they can actually identify how the body system is impacted by wellness and exercise. So they're using it for that at this time. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Nancy, did you say where that room, where did you
Yeah,
find room
you know,
for
right
that?
outside the gymnasium. It used to be the long, old closet where they'd store all the equipment.
Oh, yes.
We emptied
Uh-huh.
all that out during the summertime, and
That's great.
Rob Quinn helped me.
Yeah.
He's wonderful. I always sing his praises. He really was instrumental in getting a proper flooring for that, for impact, as well as the PE teachers came up with some designs. One of my health teachers' daughter works for Concept Rowers, so we did a lot of that kind of movement, and the PTO really supported the initiative as well. My hope is to get some computerized programming in there by the time we're in middle school, and have students be able to track their fitness performance electronically.
That's great.
Yeah.
You had cleaned out another room downstairs last year, too. I remember we saw on the first day of school, sort of where the teachers were. There was a back room that you had cleared out. So
that
you're
was,
making the school bigger?
That was at Middle School East.
Yeah, oh, that's right, that's
where
right.
the new
Yeah,
Human Performance Lab
okay.
is now.
That was,
At
right.
Middle School East, that's where the new fitness center
Okay.
will be there, and then the new team chair office is across the hallway.
Okay, all right. Yeah, thanks.
Is there a thought to make it an after-school program so that kids can use
Absolutely.
it more? You know, kids always need
Absolutely.
that gym space, but a
Yep.
supervised gym space, I would think you'd have a
Sure,
lot.
and I can
Especially
answer
for that
that.
age group. I know
Yeah.
that
Mm.
some programs come in, but to have it be our own would be pretty awesome.
Yeah, over at Middle School East, there's a new club that's going to be called Cross Country, and the individual who's going to be running it is actually a marathon runner.
Oh, perfect.
And she also will have access to the Human Performance Laboratory, so they'll be running and utilizing the
Mhm.
fitness equipment within. And at Stacy Middle School, we have something called Recreational Sports as a club next year. I just need to get somebody to sign up to do it. So we do have clubs in place after school, and then we have cross-country in the fall and track and field in the spring, and those advisors also would have access to the Human Performance Laboratory as well. And I'd like to say, you know, I always think the teachers that within the middle level and any level at Milford High School, we have a lot of experts, and we're going to be utilizing the experts to do a lot of mini in-house training to support the RTI initiative, as well as the Greek and Latin, Construct English, the Big Six research mini workshops. We have a lot of teachers who have already expressed interest in providing those types of mini workshops during early release time for their peers. So I think that's exciting, as well as, you know, the baseline edge technology for the evaluation training. Mandated reporting protocol review. We have had some community members bring interest in us making sure that we go over that very carefully with staff, so that is going to be embedded next year as well.
Yes.
Safety drill practices as well.
Just for the benefit of the people that might be watching this, could you just elaborate a little bit on the RTI and what your staff is, what it is and what
Yeah.
your staff is doing to
Sure.
work towards it?
That's a good question. RTI is a response to intervention, and that's a district initiative. And basically what that is response to intervention. In Milford, you also can say response to instruction. So what you're doing is trying to meet every student at the level they need you to meet them at. So you're assessing students constantly using formative, which are those quick little assessments, either, hey, did you get it, thumbs up, thumbs down, or a little quick questions on the way out the door, or an exit slip that connects to your target objective that's placed on the board every day. And what this does is make sure every student is being assessed on a daily basis to ensure that you understand where they're at. their content understanding, as well as their retention for the next class that's going in. So it's very poignant because you get to see, it's called formative assessment. It comes all the time. You're looking at it all the time, and the teachers are adjusting their instruction based on the results they're getting from that formative assessment. So they look at all that assessment over a period of time, and then they can start making, we call it tiered instruction for students. So for example, let's just say that I was struggling with a math concept, and on my exit slip I didn't answer it properly. The teacher would say, oh, Nancy, hello, you're not doing well with fractions, and then they would either give me a reteaching opportunity in a small group setting within the classroom, or if I continue to struggle with something, they would give me an in addition to class. And the in addition to class, let's say in math, I'll go with that example, would be our math literacy class. And that would be identified by teacher recommendation if a student is struggling with grades, and as well as our MCAS and testing scores that would be identified. And we do the same thing. The reading department does a great job with ELA at both schools. Connie did a lot with that with the staff over at Middle School East with the reading stay 9 scores on DRP. So that's kind of a tiered intervention. So the bottom is where like 80% of us are going to be sitting, where we're in the regular classroom getting everything we need within the regular classroom, including our high-flying students. It's not just our struggling students within that. Are we providing the enrichment for them to be able to get the instruction that they need at the level they need? And then people who continue to struggle, they'll move up the tier. So tier 2 would be in addition to class, or you know, those extra services that someone might need. And then the third level is those maybe 5 to 8% of our students who really, really struggle, who need more intensive services. So we've done the same thing with discipline. We've turned it into a 3-tiered system, because most of the students don't really get into too much trouble. It's usually the top maybe 5 to 8% where you're doing a lot of those interventions. So the whole component of RTI is doing all the intervention within the general classroom setting. Okay? And so that's about it in a nutshell. I just really want to point out that the reading department and has gone out on a limb and really are taking a very aggressive approach on making sure from measuring from 5 to 8 that people are reading at their grade level, and using stay 9 in percentages, which can be scary for people. So they've really done a lot with the SMART goals, and we're hoping to support them as an administration. So, and that's that in a half. Miss Diane, it's your turn.
Hi. So, along with the school council, we also worked on the both handbooks for Middle School East and for Stacy Middle School. And so, we have a brief summary of all the change pages that we did in both handbooks, because they're both so lengthy. So, for the format for Stacy Middle School, we changed the whole format so it's easier to read, and there's a table of contents placed at the beginning. So if a parent just needs to find a certain thing, they can just open it and immediately go there. And we also made a reference to CHINS, and CHINS has been changed to CRA, which Mrs. Burns will describe.
That is just the state changed instead of children in need of services or CHINS, it's now children requiring assistance, so it's now called a CRI. And so we changed the wording, basically, and a few of the timelines changed with that. So that's all been changed in the handbook.
Another important concept was that we changed the signature form, and this form was revised to enhance the non-photo consent proportion of the form to try and avoid confusion regarding the parental and guardian consent. And with such lengthy handbooks, that if an adult just needs to find something that they need, they can immediately know where the contract signature form is. Another thing at Stacy Middle School is school IDs. They have been added to the handbook. They were replaced before, but now we want to try to imply them more to school events. And also trespassing. This section stated that students should no longer loiter in the parking lots or hallways before or after school. That was added to make it clear to students and parents. And the Milford Public Schools attendance procedure and protocol, this was a district-wide change that was made in both handbooks for Middle School East and for Stacy Middle School. And for the Middle School East handbook, the change pages, another important change was the reference to CHINS. That was changed to CRA. And also the loitering, in both Middle School East and for Stacy Middle School, students should not loiter in before or after school. Also, the attendance policy for both handbooks was changed to reflect the district-wide protocols.
And so,
So basically, the changes in both of them were, there were no really major changes, and everything that's listed here is what's been done.
We did keep these handbooks separate.
Yes.
Just so, okay, separate to schools.
Mike?
If I may ask a question, if I can bring you back to the change pages of Stacy Middle School, only because I'm on the Safety and Security Committee, terminology in lockdown. And you state in the sentence, during a lockdown, all students must remain quiet, still, and out of sight. The addition of unless directed otherwise. The reason I ask this question is, Bob is on the committee as well, we know that the term lockdown really needs to be redefined, because if the concern is in the outside, you want to lock the students in the school, but if the concern is inside, you don't want to lock the children down inside the building. So is that why you have made that change, or?
Well, what are we saying? Unless otherwise directed is we might be exiting.
Right.
So if you have a recommendation for something that would
Well,
clarify it.
My question is, do you plan to have some kind of a drill that, so the students know that, it's one thing to have somebody get into the school and now you decide that you're going to flight. You'll have mass chaos unless you've worked out some kind of a drill with the children. If the lockdown is, we're out of here, almost the old fire drill, how are we going, you know what I mean?
Right.
Is that something you've looked into?
Yeah, basically what we're going to be doing is within each building, we're going to set up a safety committee. It's on my to-do list this summer. So Stacy Middle School, I'm going to ask for volunteers to be on a safety committee, as well as Middle School East. And then we're going to practice both an internal, external, and then what do we do if we need to flight.
Yeah.
So we do have evacuation plans where each grade level will go. I don't really want to say it out loud. But,
No, I understand.
so each grade will have a specific area that they go to in the event of an evacuation. So that's been in place actually for a very long time, since 8 years at least that I'm aware of.
I would make a recommendation, Bob, that maybe as you do those committees, maybe one person from the larger committee should come down and be there and bring back to the committee that we meet with, monthly, and report back what's going on in the school. Because, I say just what we've learned in communication in our committee is, it's priceless, priceless.
Well, the reason we want to do that is as a middle school community, we're trying to be really proactive. And what I might see, but what someone else on the staff might see, it might be different. So at any given time, I might say we're going to have a safety committee after school, and I know we walk around the school. Periodically, I'll just walk around the exterior of the buildings and just start checking all the doors, just as a spot check. So the safety committee can be looking for different things that we could improve upon as well as helping people who might be like, here, how should I lower the shade, where should I put the paper in the window? That's already done at Stacy Middle School and Middle School East, but we continue to want to have different eyes on it, because more eyes make a better, a plan usually, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Just one thing, something that I noticed as I was kind of looking through here, I noticed that you changed, you made a change to the cell phone policy for Middle School East. I noticed there was not a similar change for Stacy. Was that change made to bring them two in line, or was it that, just to speak to that a little bit from a cell phone policy? I know that those are, hearing from teachers as well as having a student that's at one school and about to move to the other one. I know that cell phones can be a challenge, so.
Yeah, we ask that all the students keep their phones in their locker. We really actually been directed teachers are directed not to take the cell phones. So we do ask the students to leave their cell phones within their lockers, basically. That's what we're encouraging. It is an uphill battle. That's a challenge. I think every time something terrible happens in the world, I think people want to keep that cell phone on them for even more reasons. So you deal with the fear as well. So we do ask them to keep them in the lockers, though, and deal with it as it comes up.
So the policies are now uniform between the two schools?
We're trying to get things uniform, but I want to one thing that when we go from Stacy Middle School to Middle School East, I didn't want Middle School East to lose its identity as a school. Hence why we're keeping a separate handbook. So there are a lot of things that are different in Middle School East to Stacy Middle School.
Let me back up. I was speaking specifically about cell phones.
the cell phones.
Yeah, is that policy now identical between the two schools?
I would have to look down and read it.
Okay.
I think we're just trying to merge, you know, I can get back to you on it, but I don't have it all, I have to be honest with you, I do not have it memorized in my.
I'll be honest with you, if you've memorized all of this,
I'll tell you what, I wouldn't even try. At the point I am right now, no thank you.
Working
No
on
thank you.
certain.
So, you know, I certainly can read that later on and comment to you up on the side regarding that.
Yeah, just thinking about it out loud it would make sense, obviously, similar age groups, at least have a uniform policy. We're not trying to change that, you know, without you losing the identity. But
No,
certainly
no.
around cell phones.
Is
And
there
that's a
something-
lot of parent concern.
is there something
No, I
that
think
was
the way it's written is
concerning?
fine, with East is fine. I think my only question is, are they now the same? Because I noticed there was a change in one, there was nothing mentioned about it in the other. So are they now the same policy, which is great, adds consistency for parents. I know as a parent of a middle school child, knowing what the rules are, especially regarding cell phones, it's, you know, I know what I can only imagine what an uphill battle it is within the classroom. So we want to
I
make sure we
think
give
this
those
was-
teachers the air cover too.
This was changed here just because we used to take the cell phone,
Mm.
and then a parent or guardian
We
would
were
come to
directed,
pick it
yeah,
up.
we were
Yeah.
directed not to take
And so
cell
we
phones.
directed.
Oh,
not
yeah,
to do
well,
that
I think the
anymore.
way it works.
So it's now just, we tell them to put it in their locker.
Yeah. I'll verify it and then I'll email Mr. Tremblay, okay?
Great, thank you.
Okay.
for working.
I love the table of contents. I used it more than once this week. I was like, what, I need that. It was great. I can't believe it wasn't there before.
I would
We
like to
never-
commend Mrs. Now for realigning that. Each year, you think you're gonna make it better and better, but she really figured out how to
It
format
was
something.
terrific. It was
And then it
really
automatically
helpful.
changes
Much more user-friendly.
pages. So I'm gonna give all that, that credit to Mrs. Now for working on that.
And I'm just going to mention one more thing that I know is the bane of your existence probably this time of year is dress code.
Yes.
It's a real, I hear about it a ton, and I don't know how we consistently enforce it. I know it comes up every year. I just have to say, as my kids are getting through the system more, I don't know how we fix it, but the dress code enforcement and consistency, I don't think is consistent throughout the system, and I think we have to figure out a plan for that. I know kids will push limits. I know, and I've heard all kinds of stuff at the, you know, well, if we all wear them this short, then they're gonna overrule it, and we're gonna change the policy and stuff like that, you know? So, I don't know what the solution is, I just know that I've heard from people seeing the kids outside, people coming into the building saying, what the heck? That's all.
The beauty of it is we have some very creative students. The downside
I know,
is
and I
when it
don't-
comes to dress, we have some very creative students.
Yeah, I have to make that public statement just because.
No, and I
This
appreciate
time of
that.
year is very difficult.
Yeah, it
You know,
is.
get those few warm days and.
I actually can respond to that
Sure.
if you'd like. When you look at the development of a 5th grade person to an 8th grade person, it can be very similar, but usually it becomes very different.
Right.
And the issue is you might be wearing the same type of clothing, but depending on your body size and type, it can visually be very, very different.
Right.
So when we start talking about dealing with dress code, we have things that we can offer. We call them into the office. I dealt with 3 people today on dress
okay.
code. And I pull it off very silently in the beginning because a lot of times these are the only clothes these children have.
Yep.
And I'm very sensitive to the money status that some people have, and we don't understand their situation. I also empathize with parents. A lot of the children will change their clothes on their way to school, or, you know, so there's a lot of that happens. So what do? If any teacher sees a dress code, they're directed at the middle level to put it in X2 as a discipline, and it's handled by administration. Now, I have to tell you, if there's a lot of things popping at the same time,
Right.
we prioritize. So that is, no one's getting hurt, no one's getting injured, so that is not the top of the priority if those other things we're worried about. So it's always that kind of paper chase with what's up, you know, so we deal with it. And when we walk around during duties in the morning, the people that are directed, if you see anyone who has dress code issues, please send it up to the office. Please put it next to, and we'll deal with it as quickly as we can. We do ask teachers not to address it. We ask that you leave that to us so it's more consistent. And it doesn't put anybody in a pickle, you know, a
Right.
discomfort, an uncomfortable situation. So we do handle it. I mean, especially now, like the last week, I have to tell you, Stacy Middle School, 86 stairs from top to bottom. That top floor, I'd invite you all to come in June, in mid-June, and I'm gonna, it's up near 90 degrees up there sometimes on a really hot, humid day. So we do our best to make sure we keep the air moving, the fans moving, and encouraging students to wear the appropriate wear.
Yeah, but you have to know that it's a
Mhm.
common complaint.
Right, and one of the issues that I'm gonna be bold and say is that they come to us from somewhere else with those clothes on them.
Absolutely. Mhm.
So I would ask for community support on helping us screen before they get to our our schools, because when they're here with this is what they have on, we have to call parents to come back, and that's very, very difficult for parents to be able to do with the world of work. So, we as teachers, parents ourselves, and community members, we can kind of collaborate together, because we can't impact what happens at home. They come to us that way. So we do our best with the way they come to us, and try to encourage them to make better choices, and we spend time talking about that as well.
I guess, this is a great public forum to make that point, to
Yeah.
say to parents and guardians and people who are sending their kids to school, please, you want your educators to be educating. You don't want your educators to be spending their time watching what kids wear and doing that to that
Mhm.
point. So we can use this forum to ask the community to please
Mhm.
play their part.
Mhm.
And, we have rules for a reason. And, decorum and how kids present themselves are a really important part
Mhm.
of their whole education process, really, how you
Mhm.
present yourself in the classroom to others. So, we can use this forum to ask, parents, guardians, significant people in their lives to chip in and help you out. But
We can look at it like the RTI triangle.
Absolutely.
Most kids do everything right, so you start going up the triangle, there's a fewer kids who do things improperly. So I'd like to say most kids are doing the right thing, even with
Yep.
dress code, so.
Mm.
That's a good point.
No problem.
Anyone else?
This is all available online, yes?
No, nothing's available online because it's not been approved?
No, once the.
Once it's-
sort of
yes, it is,
handbook and
yes.
everything, I just
Yeah.
want to make sure for the benefit of parents and everything
Yeah.
else who are looking at the pages
Yeah.
and pages and pages going,
Yeah,
oh
everything
boy,
is.
I don't think I've seen that. It is
It's all
available
up
on
there.
the
It's easy to
website.
navigate.
It's all up
Excellent.
there, yeah, yeah.
I have just one quick question too, about the trespassing section that was added.
Can I
for
ask
the
which
Stacy-
school? Okay.
Yeah, for the Stacy Middle
Yeah.
School. In this section, the sentence, students should not loiter in the parking lots or hallways before or after school is added.
Mhm.
Are you having a rampant problem with that, or?
I wouldn't say
sort of what-
rampant, but what we're finding is a lot of the students aren't leaving property, and they're trying to get back into the building. And with our community use program at Stacy Middle School being a downtown location, they're coming in and out, and then they're coming back in, whether it's at 3:30 or 4 o'clock, and they're coming back into the building, and they're moving through the building, which is dangerous.
Yeah.
God forbid someone fall or do something silly and no one's there to help them. So we're trying to encourage them, you're going to be on school property if you need to be on school property and you're being supervised, so we know you're safe. Once you're done with that supervision area, whether it's homework center or extra help, or whether you're doing a sporting event, then you should be leaving the property and moving along. What's ending up happening is a lot of kids are socializing and hanging out on property. For example, across from the library, the inset windows where the cafeteria are at Stacy, a lot of kids are congregating around there. I stopped when I was going home last week, I think it was like last Thursday, I had to pull back in, and there was about 30 kids hanging out in the windows. So I didn't, those are the types of things we don't want to have happen, because nothing good ever comes of them. So we're trying to get them to disperse from or off property once their business with the school is done, for safety.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more, so I just,
Yeah.
it's great to put it in here, but,
Yeah.
keep us apprised, I mean, if something more needs to be done there.
Mhm. What I usually do is we start to see a problem, Officer Gresham and Officer Turner are excellent. They help us, they respond. If they're, after 3 o'clock, their shift's over, they actually call in to their colleagues, and they ask them to drive around the schools, and if there's anyone there to disperse them. So they've been nothing but wonderful and supportive on things like that.
Good, well, that's great to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
But if something else comes up, I certainly, would let you know, for sure.
Thank you.
Can I ask just one more question? Sorry.
Sure.
The Greek and Latin program, is that was a pilot before? And now is it just going to be incorporated into the curriculum, or is
Well,
it still part of the improvement?
Well,
like not
basically,
necessarily?
it's not a pilot anymore.
Okay.
We piloted that program for this company, and
Yep.
we decided to kind of continue on doing our own sort of thing, and the ELA and reading departments have worked very nicely with the high school CTL to talk about what's going to happen for mastery for words or definitions in grade 5. What are we going to master in grade 6, 7, 8 into the high school? And the high school, I believe, is also doing Greek and Latin roots as well.
great.
So instead of just doing a touch all the way around, we're saying, hey, let's focus on the 15 Greek and Latin roots for grade 5, and they'll master them by end of grade 5. Then we're going to master this in grade 6, 7, 8, boom, boom, boom. And then, you know, quite frankly, and you probably could speak to it the best with, I believe that is really going to help the students with science. And decoding and all of that business, but their ability with upper level science courses, I think they'll be able to do a lot of dissecting words for meaning. Just
in
using
any discipline, really higher level discipline, just that ability to dissect and break things down. If you know a little bit, you might be able to get the whole thing.
Yeah,
And it's a great skill.
I think the monthly curriculum council that Mr. Tremblay has put together has really, you've heard me talking a lot about the transitions with CTLs from 5 through 12. Giving them a lot of opportunity to be able to connect for transition vertically, and that's been very helpful. So a lot of what you see built in here is because what I've read in their meeting minutes and brought it back to the council and then brought it back to Joanna, brought it back to Marilyn, Andrea Rhoda talking about, hey, how do you guys think this will work? Will this transition into the high school? So that's given us as a team a better opportunity to work together, which was nice.
Yeah, it's great.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming.
we need to vote in.
We're gonna take a vote on approving the school improvement plan as well as the handbooks for both Stacy and Middle School East. I have a motion from
I'll make a
Christine,
motion.
second from Patrick. All in favor? Unanimous in favor? Motion passes. Thank you so much, Nancy.
Thank
Always a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Connie.
Have a nice evening.
Good job
Nice
as
job.
always.
Nice job, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane.
Thank you.
Nice job.
Good job.
You didn't even look nervous.
No, she was great. You should see her. She runs a mean dance, too.
Really?
Yes. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Great.
Good night.
Good night.
Thanks, Connie.
Next, we'll have Carrie Barnack up to go over the high school school improvement planning handbook.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Mhm.
I'm here tonight on behalf of Mr. Tempesta. He was double booked tonight. He is at a Hockomock League meeting and banquet. So he asked that I come and speak with you tonight and present our school improvement plan and the updates and changes to our handbook.
Great.
So I'd like to begin with our handbook, and if I may direct you to page 8. We're fortunate that we don't have too many changes to our handbook this year. Primarily, the changes are aligning our handbook policies to a year-long schedule. We have a number of policies in the handbook that are fitting to the block schedule, but now that we are on a year-long schedule, we had to make some revisions. So first of all, with regard to the attendance policy on page 8, we too are able to adopt the district attendance policy, and that's new for us because we are now aligned because we are on a year-long schedule. In the past, we had to make some specific revisions that were somewhat aligned to the district policy, but not entirely because of the 90-day block schedule, but we will be adopting the district attendance policy. With regard to numbers 2C and 2D, those are in red and they should be in green. These will be inserted into our handbook. And the reason that we wanted to point this out to our students and to our families is because this is a pretty big change for our students. They are accustomed to the policy being students who have 9 or more absences in a block schedule, meaning that 90-day course, they may lose credit under that 90 days, whereas now the course will continue on for 180 days, full year, and so that's a significant impact on the attendance. So we put in under 2C that if a student were to reach 8 absences in a term, being 45 days, that we would want to have a parent meeting and sit down and have a conversation. because that could quickly swell to 32 absences in a year, and the student would lose credit. So we want to put the spotlight on that so students are aware of the impact of the attendance policy because of the change to the year-long schedule. 2D is a current policy that we have, and again, for our senior students who are accustomed to, in the fourth term, the amount of time that they're in school is shorter than the rest of the student body because they graduate the first Sunday in June. And so we just want to remind them that if they were to be absent 5 days or more in that final term, they would be jeopardizing credits and therefore jeopardizing their graduation. So again, a lot of it is educating students about the shifts in the attendance policy because of the year-long schedule. So that's the essence of page 8. And I also want to mention, with our entire handbook, we had to do a significant amount of formatting. Just over the years, there's a lot of different fonts and sizes and spacing, what have you. And I just want to thank one of our students, Tom Holmes, who's a sophomore student, and he did a lot of work on formatting this, and we're very grateful to his help for that. So I want to thank Tom for that. And if we move on to page 25, this change under number 37, tardiness. Currently, students who are tardy to school are sent to in-school detention. We spend the first week or two explaining the policy, reminding students repeatedly about the importance of being on time for school. And of course, this is unexcused tardy. This would be a student who comes into school at 8:30, Dunkin' Donuts in hand, just kind of moseying in and not being in school on time at 7:45. So what we've done, though, and what we would like to do is to shift a little bit to the first offense being a warning, the second offense being an office detention, the third offense being 2 office detentions, and then the fourth offense moving towards Saturday school. One of the concerns that emerged with the in-school detention period is the student's loss of time on learning in the classroom. So even though the student is late and is unexcused and may not have been as motivated to get to school on time, having them serve the remainder of that class period in the in-school detention room can only serve to be a further setback in accessing curriculum. So we are going to shift this tardy policy to these offenses, leaning more towards warnings, detention, Saturday school. If it's excessive, parent meetings, parents coming in, we could still use an in-school detention period, but that would be reserved to the point where a student isn't getting the message because of consequences 1 through 4.
Carrie?
Yes.
I remember when that was tightened up, and I thought we were led to believe that it really was working and that it was deterring more kids from being tardy. So that's changed, it sounds like, a little bit.
One of the things, for some students it is, and it is a deterrent, and it's worked quite well. One of the obstacles that we have found is that some students desire to go into the in-school detention room because they may need to get caught up on some homework, or they are avoiding a test, or something of that nature. And so we want to be able to evaluate whether or not that's the circumstance with the student, because we certainly don't want students planning to go to in-school detention in order to not be in class or otherwise avoid.
Right, yeah, no, I know we just had talked about it, wasn't it, was last year or the year before?
Yeah, and it was also the bell, when the bell rings for class, that you're late, too. There was something before every class as well. That was another bigger discussion. That there was a tightening of that policy, so that if you were not in the classroom when
the
door
4-minute
closed,
walk,
you were done.
Right, and so there may be a student who violates that once in a school year, and then there may be another student that violates that 3 times a week, or 3 times a day. And so, and that's why there needs to be a little bit more latitude with that, because, again, students who may plan to actually be in school detention together too, and that's not the purpose.
The buddy
so.
system.
Sorry.
On those rare
I'm
occasions.
not sure we're looking for the buddy system there. Thank you.
And then, moving on to page 29, parking regulations. One thing that emerged this year was that in the front parking lot, sometimes students are parking out in that lot. We have a lot of programs and professional development and visitors who come into the building for all different reasons throughout the day. And we want to make certain that there's parking out front, because all our visitors must come through the front door and go through the lobby guard. And so we are asking that all our students park in the back C wing or down by the cafeteria. There's plenty of parking in both areas. There are doors open prior to locking the doors at 8 a.m. And so I don't anticipate that there would be any problem, but we want to make sure that there's parking for all guests that are coming to the building, whether it's for the high school, whether it's for the central office, whether they need to go to community use, because there's a lot of activity that goes on in the building throughout the day. So we have inserted the change for students to park in those two lots.
Carrie, just a quick question for you on that. So I can't even imagine what that must be like to try and enforce. Is there signage for a combination of the students' benefit as well as for when we do have our visitors, as far as, I've driven around, I can't recall off the top of my head that there's signs that say student parking versus visitor parking, and
At this time, we don't have signage. We do use our public address system to remind students to park in these two lots in order to make sure there's enough space for visitors. But that's a great suggestion, and one that I could work with Mr. Quinn.
Yeah, there is a bank of visitor parking at Milford High School at the front. If you walk
Yeah,
out, if you're
it
walking
says
out on
visitor.
the left, those are all marked visitor. And all the lots are labeled A, B, or C.
that's what I was thinking. I was trying to refresh in my head, is there
But it doesn't say per se student, I'm not sure if it says
I
student
don't-
parking or not. It may, we can look at that and see, but the
Okay.
lots are definitely identified.
it may make it, just thinking of the first couple, the students that are coming in, and makes it a little easier to sort of manage the traffic, so to speak.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you. And moving on to, and this goes to the sheet that Mr. Tremblay provided for you with the chart. On page 40, we have in red a chart. And this chart is a grading guideline for students and for faculty. And this chart that's in red will be removed from the handbook, and the green chart will be inserted. And again, this goes back to the shifts. It's not a change in grading policy, but more a refinement, a modification to account for a year-long schedule. So the chart in red speaks directly to a 90-day schedule with final exams in terms 2 and 4, because right now term 2 ends first semester, term 4 ends second semester, and that's eliminated now, so we'll have term 1, 2, and 3, and a final exam. And so that, the chart reflects that shift. So it's really not a change, more of a shift because of the 180-day year-long schedule. And those are all the changes to our handbook this year.
Sure, there's a lot of blank pages in there. Did you guys see that?
Yeah. If you look on the computer online, there's lots of, there's like one set where there's like 2 pages that are blank. I think it's 37 through 40.
Yeah, 30,
Yeah.
I saw-
35, 36, 37.
Just so you know.
I did see
you
that
know,
on the
before it's
print.
printed or anything like that. Again, it's formatting, but.
Thank you. Yes,
That's
we'll make
easy.
sure that we tidy that up before it
Yeah,
goes to the
easy.
printer.
And Carrie, I probably should have asked this when Nancy and Connie were here earlier, but is there any coordination among the schools when you're putting the handbook together?
Each school develops their handbook individually. We haven't, at least this year or in the past, collaborated.
There is in the middle, and the high school, I would say no. There is in some district around attendance, for example. We had a task force, K-12, that looked at that. But the elementary handbooks are coordinated, 3 elementary schools. And then now the middle schools with Nancy at both are coordinated.
And I ask you, just using the examples that were brought up earlier, the cell phone policy and the dress code policy, it just seems like it would
Yeah.
be of value if that was consistent throughout middle school and into high school, so there's no confusion.
Yeah, that's a
That-
great point.
That is a great point. And the second half of the handbook are district policies, so perhaps we could collaborate on.
Yeah, I'll follow up with the principals on aligning particularly around the cell phone policy, which I
Right.
think is when there was brought up a couple points tonight, so I will follow up with that with the principals.
Thank you. And moving on to the school improvement plan, if I could direct your attention to page 7. And this is really going to be the essence and the focus for the high school this year, curriculum, instruction, and assessment. With the shift from 90-day block scheduling to a year-long schedule, our curriculum needs to be aligned to that. Our pacing guides need to change. We are going from 82-minute classes to 57-minute classes, and that is going to be a significant amount of time that our faculty are going to be spending with pacing guides. And again, simultaneously, this is all being aligned to the Common Core. So there's a lot of work to be done with our courses that are now being taught over 90 days, and next year will be taught in 180. And so our professional learning communities and our department meetings next year in our new schedule, which will meet during the school day more frequently, much more frequently than they do now, that time will be devoted to curriculum instruction and assessment. One of the ongoing goals is common assessments, and we made a lot of strides with that over the last couple of years, but that needs to continue. And what I mean by that, particularly with regard to a final exam, those need to be common. So an Algebra 1 honors student who sits for a final exam is taking the same final exam as every other Algebra 1 honors student, regardless of the teacher. And so that's an important initiative for all courses that we have at the high school. And again, we've made a lot of progress with that, but there's more to be made. So there'll be time spent on developing those common assessments.
Carrie, we got a commitment from the teaching staff when we implemented this new schedule that they would use one of their periods during the course of a work week to have departmental planning time. And so my concern when we got that was that it was going to be that we were able, as an administration, to structure it properly so we can achieve exactly the type of goal that you just mentioned. So if a student's taking an Algebra 1 exam from teacher A, it's the same exam from teacher B. I'm wondering how that structure is being created so we know that when the departmental planning time occurs, these are the goals that they're working towards. So we're prioritizing what those goals are supposed to be. I understand there's lots of things that go on during the course of the school year that are important. As far as I'm concerned, making sure that the final exam for Algebra 1 is probably the first priority for all the algebra teachers. And so I'm wondering if we have a plan in place already to structure that departmental planning time during the course of the week.
Well, one of the first tasks will be once our new schedule, all our students are populated, they have their schedules and they're all populated into the master schedule, and all the teachers teaching the 30 teaching blocks are all populated, then we need to look at how that plays out in terms of which teachers are free when. So in other words, if you have 12 English teachers, are 6 of them free at the same time? Are 5? How will this work? Do we have 8? And that's what we need to look at to see, number one, personnel, and how they can come together throughout a cycle, because our cycle is 7 days. So over the 7-day cycle, where does it fit for these teachers? Where is it common that they're off at the same time in order to achieve that? So that's number one, is to work through the personnel issues and who will be working together. And then in order to do, again, going back to the curriculum, taking what's being taught now in 82 minutes and adjusting that to 57 minutes, and that too will allow more depth and breadth. And so that's another charge that the departments will have. And lastly, we have significant data from the MCAS and the PSAT to tell us where our material resources and our human resources, our faculty need to spend their energy. We can see the strengths and we can see the gaps, but this new schedule is going to give us the time to examine that data within the department and across disciplines, because it's all of our job in order to understand where the students are achieving at high levels and where we're falling short against the state and national averages. So those are the three
It
big
would-
charges.
It makes perfect sense that we wouldn't have a plan in place now, not knowing where the availability is going to be. Who's going to prioritize the work that's going to occur, that common planning? Is it going to be a department head? Is it going to be an assistant principal? Do you know that structured yet, or is that you still working those out? I don't
Those-
expect an answer, but I would like to know that we're working towards an answer.
Those structures right now are organized through the CTL
Okay.
department. So I would suggest that would continue, that
Okay.
the principal would continue to work with the CTLs in order to identify the goals
Perfect,
for the department meetings.
great.
Under course levels, that's another challenge that we have been talking about. We have our college prep level, our honors level, our advanced placement level. One of the obstacles, challenges that we've had is we've had to merge some college prep and honors courses in order to run them. Sometimes if you have a course that only maybe 7 students sign up for, but it's a very valuable course, the students really want this course, it's very important to their college and career goals, you don't want to lose the course. But in order to hold on to a course with 7 students in it, sometimes it has to be merged with another course. And this is a conversation that's ongoing and will continue next year. How do we continue with a course, for example, like advanced placement Spanish, that may have maybe 7 or 8 students, not quite enough to run it, but we have a big cohort of Spanish 5. So they're just on the cusp. They're a hair from AP Spanish, but they're not there yet. So how do you take a course like Spanish 5 Honors, AP Spanish, and figure it out and make those work together? And it can be a challenge for the teacher because they're 2 different curriculums, but yet a lot of times you'll have a student in a Spanish 5, for example, a Spanish 5 Honors, who's achieving at a very high level and could easily merge into that AP Spanish course and make a leap so that we can run those courses together so that the Spanish 5 student is actually accessing the AP curriculum. So those are some of the dialogues that we need to have with teachers. We've done this in the past. It's worked at the higher levels. It's worked at some of the lower levels where kids are struggling, but it is an obstacle when you merge levels. And so we'll continue that dialogue about how to hold on to all our courses because they're valuable and important to all our students. But yet we know sometimes when there's a few kids who want a course, sometimes it's going to fall off the radar. So that's a continued conversation. For the Pathways program, that's another goal for next year. The Pathways program has found a great deal of success this year under the direction of Sue Cohen and Steve DeVito. The current junior students in the program, many have transitioned and are in the process of transitioning back into their regular classes. We'll have a new cohort of students coming into the program for next year. So the goals and objectives for that program will continue to be refined. We have discussed internships, externships, different career opportunities for the students in the Pathways program to really link them in and hook them into what their passion is, what motivates them, and what gets them excited about learning, because high school goes by in a heartbeat, and we want to make sure that the students have focused in on what their college and career goals will be. Couple of other important items for next year. We are engaging in the PBIS district-wide initiative with the other schools in the district. We had the opportunity to attend a meeting recently to learn what the other schools are doing with PBIS, and we look forward to becoming a part of those professional conversations and learning what the other schools have done within the classroom, within their school, to really improve culture for students, to give students hope and inspire students to achieve at high levels and to not give up and to stay motivated and energetic about school and learning. So that is something we will engage.
Just a quick, just for the benefit of the viewing public, can you just spell out what PBIS stands for?
PBIS is Positive Behavior Intervention Strategies, and it's a process by where classroom and school-wide initiatives are put in place to assist students, to inspire students, to work hard, to achieve at high levels, to not give up when it's hard, to remember that there's always tomorrow and there's hope and that they can achieve at very high levels, but that sometimes it's hard and it can be a little overwhelming, but that the staff is there for the students, that the faculty will provide a personalization of instruction in order to help that student achieve their goals. So we're looking forward to working with our other schools in the district in order to see what's worked well for them. I've heard about some business partnerships that some of the other schools have. They have a reward system that the kids love because there are prizes and different initiatives like that students can earn points through participating in certain after-school programs, or so even simplest things such as holding the door for the student behind you, not, being thoughtful and considerate of others. And so they have had a lot of success at the other schools with PBIS, so we're looking forward to being a part of that. We also, I am happy to inform you that we were recently notified that our NEASC decennial visit has been pushed out for 1 year. So we are going to be a 2016 accreditation school. Mr. Tempesta and some other principals in the state were given an opportunity and asked, would you like to have an additional year in order to prepare for your NEASC visit and so forth. And he informed them that we would be interested in that, and he recently learned that we will be a 2016 school. So the timing of that is actually very beneficial because of this new initiative with our schedule. It will give us 1 more year before we go into our self-study. So next year we can really work through our new schedule, iron out any problems that we see, and really refine things for 2015, which will be the year that we go into our self-study.
That's great, because you're going to have this coming school year.
Yes, and with any new initiative, right, with our new schedule, we know that there are going to be some conflicts. We're already, the scheduling's done, and we're already looking at individual student schedules to see where the conflicts are. The student who wants AP European History and a Singleton, maybe AP French, they can't run at the same time. So we're really taking a hard look now at individual schedules in order to understand before we even begin, before we rotate the schedule, we need to see where those gaps are. And we know we're going to have them. And we'll get through them, though, as a team, with our students, with the faculty. Everyone's on board, and there's been a lot of hard work done to get us to this point. So I have no doubt that next year, that will, the good and the hard work will continue, and we will get through that together.
Great to hear that you guys are planning ahead for potential issues, and
yes,
so that's great.
The guidance counselors have done a great job getting the scheduling done over at the 8th grade as well. We have all of that information. It's all in X2. We're looking at sections now and how many sections of each course, and again, how we might, if we need to merge certain courses, there may be something like a theater arts 2 and 3 that we need to kind of make it work together so that one teacher isn't being taken up in the rotation, for a small cohort of kids. So how can we push those together? So there's a lot of hard work being done on the schedule, but as I said, I think that in the end, this new schedule, it's going to give us an advisory period, another thing that one of our professional learning communities has been working on all year, where we'll be able to implement curriculum around leadership, bullying prevention, community service. One of the ideas within the advisory is how can we bring in people to talk about college and career goals. If you organized an advisory by student interests, maybe by using the Occupational Outlook Handbook for categories of where the jobs are in the future, and then ask students to sign up for one of these cohorts, and then bring in people to talk to them about careers in engineering, careers in teaching, careers in whatever discipline, whether it's theater arts or math and science, healthcare, and so organizing students in a way that is meaningful, and then we as educators can reach out into the community to our resources and bring in some people to talk to students about where they went to college and what they majored in and how they got to the place that they are. And so we're very excited about the advisory period and the opportunities that that will present as well. And that captures most of the initiatives within our school improvement plan for next year. So thank you for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for coming in. With that, do we have a motion to accept?
I'll make a motion.
From Scott, second from Mike, all in favor to accept the improvement plan and handbook? Unanimous in favor.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for
Nice
coming
job.
in.
Thank you.
Yeah, that was excellent.
Thanks, Carrie.
Thanks, Gary.
Gary.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Okay, next on our agenda is the Milford Public Schools policy readings. This is the second reading we'll be doing for the use of the internet and network in school, the security camera system policy, and the facility use policy as well. Does the policy subcommittee want to speak to any of these? Has everyone had a chance to look them over?
It's a second reading, so I think we
Mm.
incorporated changes from the last meeting.
Yep,
The
I
the
saw
most
that.
significant would be the field use policy, which has the new structure in there, and we also got the job description for the site manager, which I think are great improvements to the policy for the people administering it at central office, as well as for the safety and protection of our fields. So I have nothing to add. I don't know, Scott, do you have anything to add?
No, I certainly support everything that Christine said. Thank you to everybody that, Bob, you put some work into starting to put together some job descriptions, and Kathy as well, I know. Nothing really to add, so.
Just to comment on the network, I don't know if you're gonna take these all as a bulk or each
We could
each
do one at a
policy.
time. I think we should do
We
one.
did.
Yeah, you wanna-
Yeah,
I just wanted to follow up, a question came up at the last meeting as to how we're monitoring the, Scott, if you raised I can't remember who raised the question about how we're monitoring.
Yeah, I was
It was Ron.
asking
Oh, you did
how many
that.
occurrences we might have run into.
Oh, yeah, you were over there. at the time.
Confused you.
Confused me a little bit, yeah. That's correct. I did ask, we don't have a number on the number of violations per se. Talking to the principals about that, there doesn't appear, they're not aware of there being a lot of misuse of that. What I have for you is a daily report. I asked Len Beaudry to provide, I said, well, Len, how are you monitoring this? We have the sonic wall, the firewall. He was informing me, and I met with him to follow up on the question about the sort of blacklist service that exists, and maybe some of you are familiar with that. I wasn't. It's a blacklisting service that provides, it looks for hate words, sexually explicit words, and that's provided, and then automatically the sonic wall that we use is upgraded all the time to reflect changes out there. So this is an example of a report. This is just one day's report from one of the sonic wall servers. We have 14. And this tells him the email address, the addresses or websites, IP addresses that were kicked out for whatever reason. So Len will actually go through and look at these, the reports, and see if there's areas there. Or if I find something, or a teacher finds something, they'll report it to him, and then he's able to block that and actually block keywords. So the example I used the last time I've talked about this is I was trying to get onto Craigslist from a school computer to help the theater department look for furniture. I was blocked to get onto Craigslist. But when I went into Google and typed in Craigslist in the Google window, I got onto Craigslist. So what could happen there is that Len's able to block Craigslist, for example, using that word in the sonic wall system. Again, there's really no prevention for us for 3G and 4G network access. If people are using their phones to access, even if we can restrict the network, they can still use their phones to get around some of that. But we are, Len was really strong in saying, the human element, having teachers really be observant of what students are doing on the computers in the classes is really a key element that no firewall can really replace the human element, having that there. But there is a mechanism in place. It is the sonic wall, and there are reports that are reviewed regularly, just to answer the question that came up the last week. And I'm not aware of any gross misuse by students in the district at this point.
Okay, so in other words, that's a big help in preventing a lot of it right
Absolutely.
in there. Yeah.
Absolutely. Along with the blacklist sort of updates that happen automatically through this sonic wall system.
Good, thank you for looking into that.
Sure.
All right, if there's no further discussion,
Actually, just had one
Yeah,
question,
sure,
sorry.
Joe.
Does council end up reviewing all the policies afterwards to add legal disclosures or?
He already reviewed all of these policies.
Okay.
Yeah, before they come to the school committee for
Before
final
we do.
review,
Yeah.
he vets them.
He does, okay.
One thing generally, when we meet as a policy subcommittee, and in many cases, if it's something around that we're concerned about, town council will actually be present for the subcommittee meeting as well, so he'll usually add his 2 cents as well as we're
Okay.
reviewing it, so.
Right, and then you guys probably already covered this, but on the field use policy, so number 8, where it talks about Milford Public Schools having first priority on the field, and then it goes on to say in the event, if an event is running late, the game will be finished before the next group uses the field. So if it's a Milford Public School event that's happening afterwards, the prior event, there might be some public or some private function, Milford Public Schools will have to wait for that function to end before they take the field. Okay.
Yeah, with the scheduling, it works out pretty good the way it's scheduled right now, that the Milford, Milford has plenty of time they get priority for the timing, so we shouldn't have that overlap.
Oh, okay.
If it's scheduled the way we think it will be scheduled.
Okay.
But if Milford's on the field, if the high school's on the field first and their game goes over, that outside group is gonna have to wait.
Okay.
You know, or if it was also for if playoffs happen and all of a sudden the field needs to be used by the high school, then that outside group is effectively, can be bumped for the high school.
Yeah, as we think about, so like any of the playoff, for any of this, like the football team, let's say they make the playoffs, we won't know what that schedule looks like, so we want the high school to be able to go in and say, all right, so a club team has booked it, or somebody else has booked it for the day of a game that has to be played. It gives the high school the opportunity to say, yeah, we get priority to be able to move that other team to someplace else.
But Rich plans ahead for that as well. So if you look at how he bucks out the schedule, he doesn't know if we make the playoffs, but he's blocked that time on the field. So say the lacrosse team doesn't make the playoffs, that time will be freed up. But right now, he's got that on a hold. There's a lot of time on hold that week. But it's really the high school. It's not the other schools or the school system or anything like that. It's the high school field, so they get the priority.
Okay.
Yeah, and right, it's more with respect to the scheduling. So if they show up and someone's on there running a little late, doesn't mean like, we're here, you gotta get off.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
And I would say, I don't think there's been any incidents of, hey, we get the field, it's time to go, in the middle of a game. There's, the groups work pretty well together, they all know each other really well, in season, out of season, they do work very well. There's really been limited instances. We want to be able to give kind of the air cover, quite frankly, for Bob's office and for those that are administering this monster of a task of trying to do the scheduling for for that field, because it is, as I'm sure you're aware, it's virtually 24/7 that field is on.
Good. Anyone else? Okay, do we have for the use of the internet network in school, do we have a motion to accept? Motion from Mike, second from Christine, all in favor? Unanimous in favor, policy passes. For the security camera system policy, do we have a motion to accept? Motion from Scott, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor. And for the use of facilities, we have a motion from Patrick, a second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor, policy passes.
Can I ask one question on this site manager? So it reports to the athletic director. Who hires the site manager? Is that going to go through, I know we had discussed Lenny Morcone, or community use would have.
We're looking for Lenny to make recommendations
Okay.
on some of the students that have the experience working
Okay.
in community use to maybe, Lenny has also put some input on here.
Great.
And as well as Rob Quinn.
Perfect.
So our goal was to have the student, even if they were new to the role, take this and be able to fulfill the role of site manager.
This is a nice checklist. That you-
Yeah, I think
I'd like to thank Rich Gustavo and Kathy,
Yeah.
Glenn and Rob for
It's
putting it
great.
together. They did a great job with this.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was pleased to see it as well.
So then maybe they could have a checklist created for the site manager to have at the field where they actually check things off. You know, on a little bulletin board.
Right on a clipboard. that
Yeah,
they
that's what
can-
I'm, yes, you know, when we get there.
We can lock it up in the containers.
Yeah,
and it's on
just-
clipboard,
Exactly.
you know.
It's very helpful, and then we have record of it, not just, oh yeah, I did that, you know,
Right.
between,
Yeah, even the incident report form, you know, was a great idea too,
Well,
so.
That was Mr. Norcone.
Okay, very good. Very good.
Thorough when.
I knew if Len had a hand in this, that it was.
it's good, it's really
No,
excellent.
he has the experience for sure.
Most
Yeah.
definitely. Does a great job.
Okay, great, thank you. Next, we have the report of the superintendent. Couple of things on there, Bob?
Yes, the first item is really a housekeeping item, but it's a decision that you have the annual vote from the school committee to participate in school choice. I would encourage you to do so. It's important revenue to the town, to the school department particularly, so if you could take a vote to continuing our participation in school choice would be.
A motion
I
made.
have a motion from Patrick, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor? Good.
And just an update on item B, Woodland School Building Project update. Now, Patrick, if you want to make a comment about what we did last night.
Sure, we had a meeting last night with the architect and our project manager. And essentially, we're at the point now where we have to make a submission to the MSBA of what we believe the estimated percent difference is going to be between the different types of construction, whether it be a renovation addition or a new construction. So the architect is currently preparing that report. They're going to submit it back to the committee before it goes off to the MSBA. And then once they consider it, the MSBA will decide which of 3 different project types they want the architect to actually design. So they may say, based upon the information that we supply to the MSBA, that we want to see one renovation addition project, we want to see one new construction project, and we want to see one purely renovation project. And those, I'm just making those up. Those are, so once they make that determination, then the architect will be able to know and move forward with a more comprehensive plan. There was also another piece of that we sort of voted to stay on a timeline that we had currently built. I believe that the MSBA had offered to give us a little bit more wiggle room so we could push the process out a little bit, and we pretty much decided as a committee it's better to stay on target. Let's move forward as quickly as we possibly can. So I think it was a largely uneventful meeting, but obviously a very important and very good meeting.
Excellent summary. Prior, this was 2 weeks ago, we went to the site visit to New Hampshire. And at the last meeting, I might have mentioned that. It was great to see. We saw 3 different school models up there that HMFH architects had designed. And certainly it was good for us to walk around and get a feel for the members of the school building committee. And, you know, we all attended that with our architect and our project manager to see these different school designs. Very, very exciting to see what the possibilities are for a new Woodland school in some capacity down the road. So that was a successful visit to New Hampshire. Any questions that any members of the committee have?
That, and we're remaining ahead of schedule as we have been since day one of this project, which is great.
That's correct, yeah.
I would tell you that probably the most asked question when it comes to Woodland that I get asked is, so my child is, I start doing the math. So my
right.
child is X, Y, Z years old and.
They're in elementary school now.
Yeah.
They won't. 2nd grade, no. 3rd grade, no.
Yeah. Kindergarten is.
Kindergarten might be the last class, the first class, but it'd be their last.
So,
grade. Or maybe
well,
fifth
if you
graders
assume,
if it's
if you
K.
assume approval at town meeting for a project of this scope in 2014, and that's a January, February of that year, when it's anticipated at the town meeting, a shovel will go in the ground that spring, and then if it's new construction on the existing site, keeping the existing school in its place,
2015.
you're looking at 2 years.
2017, you're talking.
So that's essentially
4 years.
4 full school years from now, so the kindergarten class would be the first 5th grade
Fifth grade,
class.
right.
That's going in it.
Okay. I think that's right,
You'd be
yeah.
about right there.
Yeah, I think that's right.
So.
So that's the
Yeah.
game. We don't know.
That's the hope.
We
That's,
don't know.
I will tell you, just from a community perspective, that's one of the questions I probably get asked the most, whether it's at soccer games or
Yeah,
the
of
grocery
course.
store. It's, so my child is, and then they fill in the
Yeah.
blank at their child's age, and so if we get a new Woodland, would they be in it? And I said, you know what, that's a great question. So
Yeah, there's still a lot of
I figured
variables
out,
at
wanted to
this
make sure I
point.
asked, so.
Yeah,
I
so-
realize there's still a lot of what ifs, but that
There
was, that's the sort of the target.
Yeah.
And, you know, for people who might think, well, why rush it? Take it slow, because construction costs escalate if you don't move quickly.
Yeah.
So if we're in line for a good, almost nearly 55% reimbursement from the state of Massachusetts to do this project, we're well served to move as quickly as we as long as it's practical and well thought out. And this is a great committee to work with, as Patrick can attest, and other members could attest. It's a very thorough group of people.
The committee, I mean, there couldn't, and I've said this before, and I'll say it again, I don't think that there could have been a better committee chosen. I think it's terrific.
It really is.
I mean, you know, they've been tremendous to work with. The amount of experience there. I hope 30 years from now I can participate in the building project and bring even a quarter of what some of these folks are bringing to this committee. It's unbelievable.
That's great, thank you. And be sure to extend the committee's appreciation for all the hard work they have been doing up until now. So, you know, you guys have been so ahead of schedule, it's been fantastic, so.
We'll do so. That's all I have under my report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Next, we have the report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Human Resources. Kathy?
For the committee's approval this evening, I have 4 warrants. The first warrant is in the amount of $329,466.16.
Have a motion from Pat, a second from Christine. All in favor? Opposed? Unanimous in favor?
The second warrant is in the amount of $206,564.40.
Have a motion from Joe, a second from Mike. All in favor? Unanimous in favor, motion passes.
The third warrant is in the amount of $22,117.53.
Motion from Scott, second from Christine. All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
The fourth warrant is in the amount of $24,517.18.
Motion from Christine, second from Mike. All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
The committee has a list of the latest personnel hired from our previous meeting. No vote is required. We do have a out-of-state field trip request to Rhode Island, Providence, Rhode Island to be specific, for grade 1 to attend the VHA Arts and Cultural something.
We did that last year,
Center.
didn't we? Did
You know, we have already approved this. I'm really changing the date. They were snowed out. So we're changing the date, so.
Yeah, I could swear that
Yeah,
that makes
right.
sense.
Right, we were wondering what they were gonna do. Okay, we have a motion from Patrick, second from Christine. All in favor? Unanimous in favor.
There are gifts this evening, one very generous gift.
We have a gift from Anthony Consigli Construction and David Pine from Hillview Construction, gift in kind for new equipment for the weight and exercise room here at the high school, value of $15,336.70. Extremely generous.
What a gift.
Wow. Motion from Scott, second from Joe, all in favor? Unanimous in favor? Very nice of them. We'll have to send a very nice thank you, indeed. We have another gift, Michael Roach and Maria Downs for the Family Network. Contract services and supplies, programs, events, and playgroups in the amount of $25. Motion from Christine, second from Mike, all in favor? Unanimous in favor? Very nice of them, thank you. Those are all the gifts that we have.
And that's all for me this evening.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay. Next item on our agenda is subcommittee updates. Safety and security, you got anything, Mike?
We have not met. What we're waiting for is the company that did the program at the high school to get back to Bob a report on that training that they did. So we're waiting for that to come back, and then we'll set our next meeting.
Mike, have we gotten any word on the video? They said they were going to supply us with a video.
I think that's
That's
part
still
of
what
it.
Is that what it is?
That's still what I'm waiting on, yeah. They were busy with the Boston Marathon. Those guys, that whole crew was called in, so it set them back a couple of weeks from our meeting date. But I've been in touch with Jay Brennan from Synergy, and we'll reschedule that meeting.
And they're gonna provide us with the feedback and sort of how they thought things went.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Complete
Okay.
report.
Okay. How about the policy subcommittee?
We haven't met again.
Okay.
Got you these three. We'll
Yeah.
go-
Yeah.
Go next to our bullet.
Yeah,
list.
yeah.
Two meetings, cover ourselves for 2 meetings.
Yeah. Fair enough. Next item is new business. Do any committee members have new business? Seeing none. Do any members have old business? Patrick?
We spoke last time about the new technology subcommittee that's being formed by the selectmen. So I spoke to Rick Villani, who's our new town administrator, on Wednesday. And he told me about the composition of that committee. Bob is sitting on that committee, or at least told me, Bob,
Yes.
you've been informed that you're sitting on that committee?
Yeah, I've been informed that I'm sitting in that
Yeah.
committee, yes.
So I think that one thing that Rick was very open to, and I told him, whatever he needs from us, we're happy to give him, whether he wants a subcommittee or recommendations, or whether they should go through Bob. So it's at the pleasure of the committee, of course, how we want to handle that, whether we want to have a subcommittee or whether we want to start by just working with Bob. But right now, they will need input from us at some point. He just doesn't know what the input's what he's going to need just yet. So I don't know that we need to do anything tonight, but I think that we need to sort of keep track of that and make sure that we're giving him the support that he needs as we move forward with an evaluation of our different systems and the technology needs that we're going to be faced with here in the very near term.
Just a quick question, would it make sense, and I don't know if this is maybe what's being alluded to as well, is whether we have a full subcommittee, or would it make sense to have a designee from the school committee in addition to Bob that joins that committee, rather than kind of doing ad hoc, kind of work all together and be the liaison as well, along with Bob, of course.
I like that idea an awful lot. I think it would be great to have that, because now the town's coming together with school committee representation to give feedback, and it's difficult to set up a lot of subcommittee meetings at the school committee. We've experienced that with all the competing schedules, but.
Yeah, I think that's a very good idea. It's a great suggestion.
So, can we make a motion to do that, or should we be checking with the selectmen, getting their input on?
It would be, I think that would be an appointment at the pleasure of the chairman, so if we're at a point now where the committee thinks that we want to appoint somebody, that's great, or if we want to think about it some more and take it up on a future agenda, we can do that as well. So, I don't know, do we want to think about it and perhaps have a discussion next time? Would that-
Yeah, why don't we do
Yeah,
that? Maybe by next time you'll have
We'll
more
add it to the agenda for the
direction.
next meeting, we'll add.
Yeah.
I think,
Because
and
we
I also
We
think,
have to see
I
what the
think,
town wants from us.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
what kind of role you would have. You don't want to commit
Right.
yourself to,
Right.
you want to be, a contributing member, so
I'll
I'm
talk with
not
Rick
sure how
Villani
this.
as well.
and I think Vinnie Kiso should,
Do
you
you
know,
know, yeah,
may
like,
not be on the committee, but he's very, as you know, very involved in what goes on in the
Yeah, I
schools.
know
I mean,
they've reached out to him.
yeah,
do you know what I mean? I don't know what
Yeah.
role we would serve if we're going through Bob. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I
We
think
need to
it's
find some
Definitely
direction.
worthy of more discussion, so
Sure.
that would be
Yeah.
good if you could do that, that'd be
Oh,
great.
absolutely.
Yep. I'll find out.
What might not be a bad idea, Rob, is, Bob, do you want to look at maybe talking about, maybe it could be Vinnie and a member of the school committee, and we can handle it when you give your report next time, what you think would be acceptable, and
Yeah.
then we can move forward from there,
Right.
Yeah, sounds good.
if that's okay.
Yeah, great.
Okay, super. Anybody else?
I have one item of old business, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, I
Hey.
got one, just one, yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I just had a response from Mrs. Angelini. She's a hard worker. so
geez.
she
Yeah,
wanted to-
she-
She gave us
About the social health, so we lost her and they didn't know it.
It's not even old business yet.
I know, it's still current. Please let the committee know if time permits, that Stacy Middle School already had a statement about phone in the locker on page 49 of the Stacy Middle School handbook, under items prohibited from school. Middle School East needed to change to place in locker to uphold the directive from administration received regarding not confiscating phones. So therefore, both middle school handbooks are the same for cellular phones.
Thank you, Nancy.
She doesn't stop. So, there's our answer.
She's very good.
Continues to be impressive.
The one thing that I had wanted to bring up is, we had brought the Milford High Boosters Club in last year to do their pitch on the brick fundraiser. And I've been wondering sort of the status of that, as I've been asked by a lot of people as well. People in good faith put money up and donated bricks in memory of people and what have you. I mean, the committee ourselves purchased one, so I was just wondering if you knew, or if you could maybe find out
I'll look
what
into
the
it.
plan is.
I purchased one too. I'd be curious to know
Yeah.
what the status is, so
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Yes. So, I mean, Rich would look into that with
I know
them?
Tim
Tim
Corcoran was
Corcoran,
coordinating that.
Yeah.
for
As the president, yeah.
for the boosters.
Okay,
Yeah, so I'll find out from Tim what the status is on that.
all right, that'd be great.
It's
Thank
good PR for them. They have a lot of great initiatives
Yeah,
coming out,
yeah,
you know,
sure.
golf tournament,
Yeah.
a pitch tournament I saw,
Right.
so
I saw
anything
that.
that can help them raise some funds.
Their golf tournament's coming up,
Yep,
I think in June or something like that.
yeah.
It's a fun event, great event last year.
Okay. I don't see executive session.
No,
this
no executive
evening.
session this evening.
Okay, there is no executive session this evening, so we will take a motion to adjourn. A motion from Mike, second from Patrick. All in favor? Thank you.